Rancho Cucamonga is clearly a diverse collection of communities as chronicled in its history and heritage, described in the 2010 General Plan, previous general plans and specific plans, and expressed by the public through the PlanRC public participation process. It was originally formed by the joining together of the historically separate communities of Cucamonga, Alta Loma, and Etiwanda. Over the past 4 decades, Rancho Cucamonga grew rapidly and has become a large, vibrant city. The original 1980 General Plan included a map of the neighborhoods and districts of Rancho Cucamonga. That plan both recognized the pre-incorporation communities and defined the new communities that have been built over the past 4 decades. This map is similar to the 1980 map. It recognizes the various parts of town as community planning areas and provides a framework for discussion, what makes each of them unique, and what unifies them into a single, larger community. Let's take a look at each community planning area in detail. Cucamonga began as a rail depot and packing house community on the Santa Fe Railroad just east of Haven Avenue. It was originally called North Cucamonga, or Northtown, and over time grew northward to historic Route 66, or Foothill Boulevard, and continued toward Baseline Road. It also grew southward to the city's southern limits and westward to the Cucamonga station of the Pacific Electric Railway near the Sycamore Inn. Most of Cucamonga was designated as industrial in the 1980 General Plan. The community originated as small neighborhoods for the owners and workers in the vineyards. Homes were built next to wineries and packing houses, surrounded by vineyards and other agricultural production. Over time, the community evolved from an agrarian village to a suburban area with a mix of industrial uses and housing tract neighborhoods. This area has been identified by many as a challenge to be resolved in order to improve the quality of life for residents and the business environment for businesses. And while it is indeed a challenge, it is also an opportunity to provide good quality and relatively affordable living environments close to the jobs of South Cucamonga and with easy access to a growing array of amenities and conveniences along the Foothill Corridor. The Foothill Corridor extends almost 5 miles through the heart of Rancho Cucamonga, bisecting Cucamonga from Upland to Haven Avenue. The existing general plan provides recommendations for developing and improving neighborhood centers along Foothill Boulevard to increasingly provide convenient amenities, goods, and services for residents of Cucamonga's neighborhoods, as well as residents throughout the city, and providing new housing opportunities while protecting the character and quality of established neighborhoods. This general plan update will further clarify and refine that vision and provide guidance for its successful implementation. In 1921, the Red Hill Country Club was opened and the adjoining semi-rural neighborhood built out over the next several decades. Its beautiful natural hilly terrain, winding rural roadways, and custom-built homes makes this one of Rancho Cucamonga's unique and special places. While little change is anticipated within the Red Hill neighborhood and country club, the large vacant sites at the base of Red Hill along Foothill Boulevard, adjacent to the historic Sycamore Inn, present a unique opportunity for a neighborhood center, potentially including commercial, residential, and recreational facilities. Alta Loma was historically, and remains, a more semi-rural community than Cucamonga. It started as lower-intensity hillside neighborhoods, with a small original commercial center on Amethyst Street, just north of Baseline Road, identified in the 1980 General Plan as Old Alta Loma. Predominantly composed of single-family neighborhoods and housing developments, Alta Loma also includes a number of neighborhood shopping centers at key major intersections south of the 210 freeway. The portion of Altaloma north of Banyan Street, identified in the original 1980 general plan as Altaloma Highlands, is the most semi-rural area of town. It was built largely from the 1920s through the 70s and has strong equestrian character and good connections to trails leading to the foothills above. The newer neighborhoods east of Hermosa to Milliken Avenue, identified in the 1980 general plan as the Chaffey College area, have a similarly strong equestrian orientation and a design character reflective of the 1970s to 90s when it was mostly developed. In general, the semi-rural character trends toward a more conventional suburban character southward to the 210 freeway, the area south of Banyan identified in the 1980 general plan simply as Altaloma. There are a few large vacant parcels of land in Altaloma, and based on public input to date, it seems likely that the degree of change over time will be very small, probably limited to home additions and remodels, and targeted improvements to streets, trails, and parks to better accommodate residents' desires for mobility and recreation. Some have expressed an interest in considering the systematic conservation of natural habitats and foothill open spaces above Altaloma, similar to the provisions of the Etiwanda Heights Neighborhood and Conservation Plan for the foothill area to the east. Like Cucamonga, Etiwanda began as 3 rail station neighborhoods, one on the Santa Fe Railroad, another on the Southern Pacific Railroad, and the other on the Pacific Electric Railway. The Pacific Electric Red Car Station is the best known and is still in existence on the east side of Etiwanda Avenue on the Pacific Electric Trail. While the earlier Etiwanda depots and packing houses on the heavy rail lines faded into history, the community of Etiwanda grew initially along Etiwanda Avenue to the north of the Red Car commuter line, connecting westward through the San Gabriel Valley to Los Angeles. Etiwanda's fine historic houses still stand proudly along the west side of Etiwanda Avenue, lined with stately eucalyptus windrows and curbs faced with river cobbles. It was this unique design character of tree-lined streets and 2-story homes with front porches that the 1982 Etiwanda Specific Plan sought to preserve and extend as Etiwanda expanded north of the 210 freeway. The 1982 plan also proposed 2 village shopping centers, one at Etiwanda and Foothill and the other at East and Wilson, neither yet built. The 1992 Etiwanda North Specific Plan expanded Etiwanda farther to the north and west, continuing to advocate for neighborhoods reflective of its historic character. The 2019 Etiwanda Heights Plan further developed and reinforced those neighborhood design concepts, extended Etiwanda north and west to meet Altaloma, and set up a system for the systematic conservation of the rural and natural open spaces of the foothills to the north. PlanRC will integrate these plans into a cohesive policy plan for this community planning area. The Central North Planning Area was developed under the Terra Vista and Victoria Community Plans and mapped as New Rancho Cucamonga in the original 1980 General Plan. It is bounded on the west by the Deer Creek Channel and Altaloma, on the north by the 210 Freeway, on the east by Etiwanda, and on the south by Foothill Boulevard. This area is a prototypical planned community, characteristic of the period in which it was built from about 1980 to the early 2000s. As such, it includes single-family detached homes, similar to those of Etiwanda and Altaloma, and also multifamily and single-family attached housing. The more intense housing types provide a transition from the single-family detached neighborhoods to the shopping centers that line the north side of Foothill Boulevard and offer residents the opportunity to live closer to goods, services, and activities in the center of town. The 1980 General Plan designated a regional shopping center in the easterly portion of the Central North Planning Area, north of Foothill Boulevard and adjacent to the I-15 freeway. Over 2 decades later, in 2004, Victoria Gardens opened for business, a fine example of the power of planning ahead. To the southwest of Victoria Gardens, in the Central South Planning Area, is a second major community activity center, the Epicenter, home of the Cucamonga Quakes. This area presents a major opportunity for the easterly stretch of the Foothill Corridor to mature into an activity center of increasing significance to the community of Rancho Cucamonga and the Inland Empire subregion. Along the north side of Foothill, currently dominated by shopping centers, are a number of large, undeveloped sites designated for mixed-use development by the 2010 General Plan. Here, housing and shopping could be built in a connected pattern, with housing adjacent to, or in some cases on the upper floors of, buildings that also include shops, restaurants, and other businesses. Such developments could start to make a sort of downtown Rancho Cucamonga, an idea in which many residents have expressed an interest. Where such a thing might occur and in what form will be an important topic for the community to consider and discuss. And as many have noted, the nature of brick-and-mortar retail is shifting more rapidly than ever in the current pandemic, so thinking creatively about how the Foothill Corridor in central Rancho Cucamonga might evolve over the coming decades will be an important part of the general plan update. The Central South Planning Area has been identified in the 1980 General Plan and subsequent updates simply as industrial. Later, an office overlay was added on Haven Avenue, expressing the city's preference for office uses in this area. Today, most uses from Foothill Boulevard down to Arrow Route are offices, civic facilities, some shopping centers, hospitality, schools, and other non-industrial or very light industrial uses. From Arrow south to 4th Street, the border with the City of Ontario, the uses are predominantly industrial. Housing was entitled and built along the west side of Milliken Avenue north of 4th Street, and shopping centers were built along the north side of 4th Street east of Milliken. Several important facilities, the Civic Center, the Epicenter, and the Metrolink station, are located in this community planning area. As such, much of the Central South is an intermixture of industrial, office, commercial, and residential uses that is still being developed. The challenges of a highly mixed-use environment and the in-progress and unfinished nature of the Central South Planning Area represents an enormous opportunity, especially given the presence of the regional Metrolink station. If current transit planning comes to fruition, this station will soon be served with multiple trains per hour, high-speed rail service to Las Vegas and other destinations, and a state-of-the-art autonomous subway system to Ontario Airport. This area is also the main gateway to the I-10 freeway and potentially an employment hub of regional significance that can also include a variety of housing types and commercial uses as well. If Rancho Cucamonga's aspiration to become the hub of the Inland Empire is to be realized, the Central South Planning Area will be the hub of the hub. The Southeast Planning Area is bounded by Arrow Route on the north, the San Bernardino County Heavy Industrial Area on the east, Ontario's Industrial Area on the south, and the I-15 freeway on the west. It was designated for heavy industry in the 1980 General Plan and all subsequent updates. With these adjacencies and easy access to 2 interstate freeways and transcontinental railroads, the Southeast Planning Area is ideally suited for a range of heavy industrial uses and other complementary uses. Like the county industrial land to the east, the southeast transitioned directly from agriculture to industry with little planning or infrastructure. Streets are few, some are still unpaved, parcels were platted for farming, not industry, and utility infrastructure is primitive. The great opportunity in this area is to upgrade directly to 21st century industrial infrastructure and capitalize on its prime location and untapped potential for jobs and wealth creation to support Rancho Cucamonga's ascent as a premier center of the current and future regional economy. The East Side Planning Area is the easterly gateway to the Foothill Corridor and the hinge between the Industrial Southeast Planning Area to the south, the City of Fontana to the east, Etiwanda Planning Area to the north, and the Central North and Central South Planning Areas to the west. It is primarily made up of residential neighborhoods and community shopping centers. This community planning area presents a great opportunity for a potentially significant community activity center at the intersection of Foothill Boulevard and Etiwanda Avenue. In an interesting parallel to the 1980 General Plan, having designated the current location of Victoria Gardens for a regional shopping center, the northwest corner of Foothill and Etiwanda was designated as the location for one of two Etiwanda Village Centers in the 1982 Etiwanda Specific Plan, though it is yet to be built. In summary, these community planning areas are each unique and distinct in and of themselves, yet contribute to make the larger community of Rancho Cucamonga a whole. It should be noted that these community planning areas are established to provide a useful organizing framework for discussion and to ensure more context-specific planning decisions for PlanRC. They are not meant to be individually and separately planned. We appreciate your participation in the PlanRC process and value your input on each of the parts of town and the city as a whole.